It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the box. Well, the time has finally come. LSU, West Virginia, Super Regional Saturday. First pitch set for 1 p.m. We will give you our final preview on the Tigers and the Mountaineers here on today's Musso at the box. And, of course, a series prediction. Fired up to do all of it, man. We have broken this thing down from just about every angle since the matchup was confirmed after LSU dispatched of Little Rock Monday night in the regional round. You might be wondering, man, what else can we really talk about here? But I've got a few things that just kind of expand on some of the ideas and really kind of dive into the matchup more than just looking at West Virginia. Keys to victory, all those types of things. And again, fired up to do it all. Smash the like button, please, if you have not already. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app if you have not already. Please share. That's greatly appreciated. And, of course, you can follow me on social media, on Twitter X, at Musso Matthew. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram as well. Let's go ahead and dive right into it, shall we? On paper, the two teams look very, very similar. But they arrive to those conclusions that you see in the statistics, that you see on paper, very, very differently. Sure, both teams have two really good frontline starters that they lean on an awful lot. Both teams have a few question marks in their bullpen. Both teams tend to not throw as many strikes. Both teams hit right around 300. Both teams hit a lot of doubles. But they just don't get there the same. LSU, while they've played still a lot of small ball this season, the Tigers have still mashed 97 home runs. Triple digits are within reach when at one point in the year, it didn't look that way. Now, don't get me wrong. 100 homers is not what you strive for at LSU. Jay Johnson's teams have averaged over 120 so far in his 3 years. You're still well off that pace, but the power has started to come toward the back end for this lineup. West Virginia, on the other hand, they're not a very powerful team. Only 55 home runs. Yet, they average right around the same amount of runs per game as LSU, right in that 8.5 runs per game, margin. They just get there different ways. I described West Virginia's offense earlier this week as strategic and opportunistic, not necessarily small ball, although they incorporate that in there. But you can look at them and see, 108 stolen bases. They're menaces on the base path. Well, they stole 3 bases in 3 games in the Clemson Regional. That doesn't necessarily track, right? But they know their spots. They know their guys. They know their matchups, and they take advantage of it when it's presented. That's just one example. They do the same thing with a sacrifice bunt. They score a lot of runs without the benefit of a hit, sac flies, RBI groundouts, things of that nature, because they have a great understanding of the strike zone. Now, how does all of that kind of match up with LSU? Because, look, I've told y'all, the advantage that the LSU has a lot of advantages, in my opinion, in this series. We're going to get through most of them. But the advantage is Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson. So how does West Virginia's offense match up with those two guys? And I'm going to tell you, not great. And that's not a slight at West Virginia. There's not many offenses that match up great against Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson. And to illustrate that, we'll go through what we've done the last month and a half or so and just tracking their numbers combined. So their last 11 starts, that goes back to the Tennessee series. Tennessee, pretty darn good offense. Arkansas's in there, pretty darn good offense. You have 3 games against Texas A&M mixed into that, while I understand what their record is, pretty darn good offense. Cade Anderson and Anthony Hyanson in that stretch, their last 11 starts combined, they've pitched to a 1.82 ERA, have walked 23, and struck out 110 in 74 innings pitched. So nobody's offense matches up great against them. West Virginia is no different. I do think the way West Virginia plays offense makes them a slightly worse matchup for Anderson and Heinz. What you have to do with West Virginia is a couple things. You have to hold them to singles. As we said, 122 doubles. That's not a small number. That's where their slugging comes from. But the extra base hit in and of itself lacks. They're more than happy to take their singles. More on that. But holding them to that is going to be paramount. West Virginia had 8 extra base hits in the Clemson Regional. 8. For comparison's sake, LSU had 17 in the Baton Rouge Regional. Yes, they got to play an extra game, but LSU also had 6 extra base hits in one game in that regional. So West Virginia had 8 total, 7 doubles, 1 home run. Yet, you look at this, and they had 15 hits in a game. They scored 13, 9, and 4 runs in their games. Like, they were still productive. Hold them to singles. I'd like to throw one more word out there for West Virginia's offense. Frustrating. They are a frustrating offense to face because while I'm sitting here, and I've repeated it now 3 or 4 times, while I'm sitting here telling you hold them to singles, they are more than happy to take their singles. And where it becomes frustrating is they're not necessarily overly hard hit. The singles aren't just like these bullets up the middle. They are cappers, infield singles, everywhere. Hits that necessarily shouldn't be hits. And that can get frustrating on the mound. And that can have a pitcher maybe get out of his comfort zone, get out of his plan because he knows, man, that should have been caught. That should have been an out at first base. All of those things. And then you lose the strike zone and you hit batters. And they are more than welcome to take that. 17 free passes. 17 free passes for West Virginia in those 3 games. That's where they make up for maybe the lack of extra base hits. So you have to keep your composure. Now, I think that stands much more for LSU's bullpen. Cade Anderson, Anthony Hyanson, those 2 guys are as composed as they come on the mound. No moment is going to be too big for them. They have pitched in front of sold-out crowds of 13,000 against top 5 teams in the country. And just made it through that regional. This will be fine for them. And both of those guys are going to get you deep into the game because it's just what they've done. I mean, 74 innings pitched over their last 11 starts combined, that averages to 6.7 innings per start. So you're really looking at in almost 6 2/3. Like, that's telling you over their last 11, they're at least going to get you into the 7th inning, which is great. And for me, that is the main advantage, the biggest advantage that LSU has, it because that could shorten the game and you ask less of your bullpen. Now, if you're looking at LSU's bullpen, though, against this West Virginia offense, above all else, throw strikes. If you throw strikes and they get a few weak singles off of you, maybe they hit a double in the gap, that's fine. Like, I am willing to live with that. This is a West Virginia offense that has not been great at stringing hits together for their rallies. They count on those free passes. They count on moving the ball. They count on all of that to get their runs home. So if you're throwing strikes out of the LSU bullpen and they string a rally together off of you with 4 or 5 straight hits, I can live with that. That's going to suck, but I can live with it because they earned it. Above all else, throw strikes. And I think this team will have a very hard time putting runs up against LSU. Now, in keeping with the pitching, let's talk about how each team might set up their rotation, because this is interesting because both teams used their game one starter in the regional to close out the regional. Now, I think you're in different areas, like you're in different scenarios with this, because in West Virginia's case, Griffin Kern goes out, starts game one against Kentucky, gives you 7 1/3. He was magnificent. And he comes back on 1 day short rest for 1 inning to close it out on a Sunday. Now he goes all the way to Saturday. He should be fine. Like, he should be A-okay to go. I would be shocked if West Virginia doesn't start Griffin Kern. Just keep it Kern, Cartsonis, and then do what they might have to do if it goes to a game number 3, which wouldn't be good really for either team, but I would still think LSU holds the advantage, just looking at how tapped out West Virginia was in their pitching staff game 3 of that Clemson regional. So for Clemson, it's not really that much of a question, but it is an interesting deal. He's got an extra day rest than Anthony Ianson. Plus, Cade Anderson pitched Saturday for you last week anyway. It makes sense that LSU puts them back in their normal spot, their normal order of Anderson, Ianson, and that's exactly what I'm expecting. So for your pitching matchups, just for the sake of running through it, like we do, for game 1, we will expect a battle of lefties for LSU. Sophomore lefty Cade Anderson, he's 9-1, 17 start. This will be 17 starts, 17 appearances, a 3.28 ERA, 96 innings pitched. He's walked 26 and struck out 156. That mark is second in the nation. The opponent hits just 216 off of Anderson. For West Virginia, you would be looking at redshirt senior lefty Griffin Kern, 6'3". He's 5-2 with an ERA of 3.13, 95 innings for him, just 29 walks, 100 strikeouts. The opponent hits 237. Told you, he might run the fastball up to 93 a couple of times, but mainly it's going to be 89, 91 in that range. A slow looping slider, 78, 79 miles per hour, and then a pretty good changeup at about 83 from Griffin Kern is what you're looking at there. Game number 2, that's Anthony Ianson. Just to run through his numbers for you, it'll be start number 16 for Ianson, 10-2 on the year, a 2.50 ERA, 93 2/3 innings pitched, 32 walks, 135 strikeouts, also top 5 in America. The opponent hits 209 off of Ianson. And then Jack Cartsonis, big stock righty, 6'4", 220, fastball up to 95 miles per hour. This will be a start number 9, 6-3, a 2.94 ERA, 64 1/3 innings pitched, walked just 16, 76 punch outs. The opponent hits 236. You have to be ready to hit against both of these guys from West Virginia. They are both in the strike zone all the time. And with a guy like Cartsonis, the fastball's plus, like, it's got life to it. Be ready to hit. LSU loves to get pitch counts up, and I understand that. That could get you in trouble here. You need to be ready to go out there and hit, because if you let these guys get in a rhythm, they can hang around for an awful long time. What you want to do if you're LSU is get into that West Virginia bullpen, because as we've talked about, it just hasn't quite gone great for LSU. Offensively, over the course of the entire year. They've had great runs, and ultimately they've been pretty consistent because of that. but you have seen them kind of go into a shell. Plenty. For what it's worth, LSU is hitting 273 off of left-handed pitching this year. If you're looking for that matchup against Griffin Kern, but a little bit more on the bullpen. We talked about this in our deep dive preview. Guy you have to watch out for, chief among them, is Reese Bessinger. He is a righty sidearm guy. Not going to overpower you. Everything's got some wiggle to it, though. So the strikeout total kind of shows you that he's not going to overpower you. Just 43 and 61 innings. But he's a guy that's made 29 appearances, pitched in all 3 games against Clemson and Kentucky over in that regional. That's the guy, chief among them, that you have to look out for, and everything wiggles. Everything wiggles from him. Chase Myers, another guy they love to go to out of the bullpen, and he's got some pretty electric stuff. The curveball is really, really good for Meyer. And then, man, you look at Carson Estridge, who is their closer. The ERA is elevated, but 22 appearances, and they will go to him. Leads the team with 5 saves. His big thing is hits. That he's in the zone a bunch. He just has 18 walks at 48 innings, but the opponent is hitting 284. So while he throws strikes, the quality of strike might not be there. One more thing on Meyer. While he has electric stuff, he just doesn't necessarily know where it's going. 34 walks in 44 innings. When he's in the zone, though, he is almost unhittable. Just a 196 average against. Those are their top 3 arms out of the bullpen. They're all right-handed. They're all right-handed. And after that, it is slim pickings. I mean, those are the 3 guys they go to most. The other ones to really look for are Benjamin Hudson and Ben McDougal. They both have 18 appearances on the season, but neither of them have thrown 30 innings, so it's not extension. Bessinger, Meyer, Estridge. That's what you're looking at in the West Virginia bullpen. All right. What are we looking for in the games? What are the key matchups that I'm really keeping an eye on here? This is not normally where I would lead, but I will this time because I think it's key, and there's just not a lot to really say on it. But I think it's extremely key here, and it's the fielding battle. West Virginia, while they also took advantage of free passes and things of that nature, they took advantage of errors very well. And Kentucky and Clemson committed 5 combined errors in their games against West Virginia. I'm not expecting West Virginia to have such luck against LSU. In 4 games in the regional, LSU committed 1 error. 1. That's it. 1. LSU as a team is fielding 982. That is major league. Your infield has been phenomenal all year. Like, LSU just in total has committed 38 errors in over 2,000 chances this season. Like, they've been awesome. But it's going to be key for them here because West Virginia's offense can frustrate you, and they put a lot of pressure on you. But I feel pretty good about LSU and their defense because why wouldn't you? They've handled pressure. They've made tough plays. LSU's defense at times this year has made the extraordinary look ordinary. The same cannot be said for West Virginia. West Virginia on the season is fielding 969. West Virginia in 3 games in the Clemson Regional committed 9 errors. They have 65 on the season. 9 errors in 3 games. So if you're on the other side and you're LSU, you can expect them to probably give you a couple, and you need to be ready to take advantage of it. That's something that maybe just flies under the radar in this series that I think is going to be extremely, extremely key. Moving on from that. Armani Guzman and Ben Lumsden for West Virginia. Are they still hot? And look, y'all, Armani Guzman was fantastic, and he's had an awesome season as well. You look up, kid's hitting 337. Like, he's almost hitting 340. Out of their 9 hole is normally where he plays. It's where he was all week in the Clemson Regional, and he was magnificent. He was unanimously voted the most outstanding player. He was 8 out of 15. Walked off Kentucky. Like, he had the biggest hits. Now, that being said, that's a guy that has split time this year. I'm not telling you he's not going to be in the lineup. He's absolutely going to be in the lineup. What I want to know is he still hot? Does he still have the stroke that he did after sitting for a week now and not playing live games? He's had a really good season. Like, a really good season. For what it's worth, that average is 3rd on the team. So he's a really good player. He leads them in stolen bases. He's a really good player. But any player can get hot for a weekend. I'll use Jared Jones as the example. Jared Jones was 6 out of 13 in that series against South Carolina to close the regular season. And then he just went into a deep freeze again after having to wait a week to play in the SEC tournament on Friday. And hopefully he finally broke out of that in the regional final on Monday night. Hopefully. We'll see. But anybody can get hot for a weekend. Does Armani Guzman still have it? Because if he doesn't, that's a big blow to that West Virginia offense. And the same thing with Lumsden. Lumsden's not an everyday player. They like some matchups in that series over in Clemson in the regional, and they put him in for Grant Hussey, who has started 54 games over at first base. Lumsden didn't hit for a big average, but he drove in 5 runs. Like, he was really good at getting the run across. But again, that's a guy who hadn't played a bunch this year. He made 3 starts. He's made in the regional. He's made 4 all year. Do they like that matchup, or do they go with the more proven guy in Hussey? If they go with Lumsden, is he still on that streak where he's sitting there driving in runs? Those are 2 things to really watch. In terms of the guy you just cannot let beat you in this lineup, Kyle West is that guy. Kyle West is hitting 350. He leads them in home runs. He was walked intentionally a number of times in the Clemson Regional. You cannot let Kyle West beat you. You have to hold down Sam White and Jace Reinhardt as well. Reinhardt leads the team with doubles and with 21 of them. And Sam White is the leading hitter. Reinhardt, for what it's worth, also 51 RBI. I would tell you, Kyle West, Jace Reinhardt, think of them as the Aloy brothers. Think of them as Grant J. and Nathan Humphreys. Think of them as Sorrell and Laviolette. Those are the 2 bats in that lineup that you cannot let beat you if you're LSU. And as we've said all season long and pointed out all season long, LSU has had a great plan, and they have executed that plan very well against the opposition's top hitters. They'll need to do that again this week. So Guzman, Lumsden, are they still hot? Fielding battle, check. Next, what does Jay do with the lineup? And you know, it's real simple to go run it back. You had a great go of it against Little Rock with all the changes you made, with moving Milam up to the 3-hole, Fry up to the 2-hole, Jones down to 6. And while I don't think they go back to the lineup they had on Sunday, like, I expect Jones to still be down in the order. I expect Fry to still be in that 2-hole. Everything else about it might not be as simple. You're going to have a lefty on the mound in Griffin Kern. You probably won't see Jake Brown start. That's just probably not the route they'll go, because that's what they've done all year. One thing I'm going to be very interested in watching is Derek Curiel. Curiel, down the back half of this season, has really struggled against left-handed pitching. We know the struggles he had against Texas A&M. He had one hit that weekend. You saw 3 left-handed starters. He struggled those first 2 games against South Carolina, where you saw 2 left-handed starters. In the postseason, Curiel is just 1 out of 5 against left-handed pitching with 2 strikeouts. Yet, after the game on Monday night, Jay Johnson called him the engine of this offense. So it's hard for me to see them moving him out of the leadoff spot. If they move Curiel out of the leadoff spot, I would expect to see something pretty unconventional, like in Texas A&M when you saw Jared Jones lead off. I'm not saying Jared Jones is going to lead off. I'm just saying something unconventional like that. Maybe it's Ethan Fry. If they move Curiel out of the leadoff spot, I don't expect them to. Because as Jay Johnson said, he's the engine that makes it go. The conventional deal would be to put Stanfield up there. Or Dickinson. But if they're going to move him, I would think they go an unconventional route there. But that is also something that I am watching very closely, is Curiel's performance against the lefties, specifically Griffin Kern. So again, while it's easy to say run it back, because I mean, you were great, and yeah, run it back. I mean, you had 10 runs, 11 hits. What's more important is the timely hitting. And I'll reference something we did earlier in the week when talking about what changed for LSU in the regional. You'll remember in that 11-inning stretch when LSU scored 2 runs, they were 4 for 20 with runners on base. 4 for 20 with runners on base. In the final 6 innings of that series, where you scored 9 runs, LSU had 4 hits with runners on base. The difference is those 4 hits drove in 6 runs. The timely hit was there. It was not in that 11-inning stretch. You need the timely hitting. That's why when I sit here and I go, yeah, you could change the lineup, that's fine. Guys have to execute. You know who your guys are, and it's up to them to execute. Can you put them in better positions to execute how you stack them in the lineup? Sure. Ethan Fry is going to bat more at the 2-hole. That's why you had Jones there. Kind of the same deal with Curiel. Like those guys in the top 3, they're going to get an extra at bat in the ballgame. So you can maneuver it to put guys in better positions and put your hottest hitters in those positions, but they still have to come through. And that's just not a given on any given day. So above all else on the offense, timely hitting has to be there for LSU. As it was the first 2 games of the regional and the final 6 innings of game number 7 in the regional. You do that, you're going to like the outcome. So how does it go? Well, I don't think there's any secret here, y'all. I like LSU in this series a lot. I think they have a distinct advantage in the field. I think they have a distinct advantage on the mound in starting pitching. Does the bullpen concern me a little bit? Yes. But if you get strikes from your top guys, we've seen how dominant they could be. You have more depth in your bullpen as well. I know some of y'all are going to disagree with that, but you do. I mean, LSU's 6th pitcher out of the bullpen, 6th and 7th pitchers out of the bullpen are guys like Maverick Rizzi and William Schmidt. Rizzi throws 100. That's depth. A guy like Cooper Williams, that's depth. And they've played vital roles at points this season for you. West Virginia doesn't have that. You are the deeper, more talented team. You are playing at home. You have your horses set up, ready to go. I'm expecting a dandy of a first game between Anderson and Griffin Kern because of the struggles LSU has had against left-handed pitching. Well, again, I use that loosely. Struggles. They hit 273. That's actually not horrible. And because of the stakes, and because both teams are going to go all in to win. Teams that win game one of the Super Regional advance around 75% of the time. You have to round up to get there, so roughly 75% of the time. Game one is extremely important. Look for LSU, look for West Virginia to pull out all the stops. I love having Cade Anderson on the mound. And I love having Ianson to back him up. I like the advantage in the field. I like your bullpen depth. I like that you can run the ball out of the ballpark on a weekend that should play pretty offensive. It should be a south wind, and it will be warm. This should be the Alec Box Stadium that we are all familiar with. And I think that plays into LSU's hands. And then there's the crowd, which should be on tilt all weekend long. It's going to be hot out there Saturday. Pack your sunscreen. But it's sold out, and it should be raucous. I like LSU to win the Super Regional, advance to Omaha, and I like them to do it in 2 games behind Anthony Ianson and Cade Anderson. So that's my official prediction. I'm not going to say the S word, but I like LSU to get the first 2. We'll have full recaps immediately after each game goes final. You know that, so tune in to Musso at the Box. It's greatly appreciated. Be here next time for more as we recap game number 1 of LSU and West Virginia in the Baton Rouge Super Regional.